listening to Parental Advisory in Reverse, a new podcast from a Gen X daughter caring for both her aging parents, finding her way, and sharing unique and inspiring stories with new and old friends. Because you just can't make this stuff up. Hi, this week on Parental Advisory in Reverse podcast, I'm actually not going to have a guest. And time for video editing was just not in the agenda. Life is really loud, and instead, I wanted to share a little bit about what's been going on at home and why I didn't get this podcast episode with a guest up. But because caregiving doesn't pause for production schedules, right? And sometimes the story is exactly happening in real time. I feel like things are moving swiftly. I think some days I look at my dad and I can still see the man who wanted nothing more than to be left alone. That's what I told the people we hired to care for him, like leaving him alone is fine. And he wants to be left alone. You know, some people are chatty and want to carry on conversations with elderly people, but he really just wants to be left alone. And it seemed like he could fix anything, carry anything, and handle life on his own terms. And now it's pretty different. He needs help with things that he never would have let anyone touch before. And what surprises me, what really gets me, is that he's letting people care for him. He's letting them come in, tend to him. We rearranged the furniture in the bedroom and actually got a hospital bed. He's letting them change him and change the bed sheets. All the things that would have been unthinkable for him not that long ago. And I know he does not want me to help him with. So there's something both beautiful and sad at the same time, because even in all this, though, he still gets to be in charge. When they ask me something, I say check with him. He still gets to tell us what he wants, what he doesn't want, if he wants to have a bed lift to get out of bed, or if he wants to stay in bed, if he wants to eat or not eat, what's important and what matters to him. I think that small piece of control is one of the last things that still feels like him. He can still tell you what's going on, and he knows what's going on, but he can also see that my mom doesn't, because there's a practical side to caring for your parents that no one really prepares you for. For example, when they put in the catheter, I was really grateful for that. It meant he didn't have to get out of bed to actually use the restroom. But then, like, the first time I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, I need a CNA degree to be able to take care of him. And it hit me even harder because, as Abby told us, hospice would not be here very often. And, you know, they didn't make it very clear what they could and couldn't do until I asked. We didn't get any training for them, no demonstration, no walkthrough. And like Abby, I didn't want to do anything that was going to hurt him or put him at risk. Fortunately, the folks that we hired are good. They are really good, and they know how to handle that. I'm really grateful that we have the resources to do that. The hospice nurse told me that my mom's not able to care for him and that they shouldn't be left alone. So now we have 24-hour care, and my sister and I split the weekends. Even with all the good care, we had to let somebody go. I think 2 out of 3 is not bad, a 66% retention rate. She was wonderful for activities and cooking and cleaning, and having great conversation, but we're past that stage right now. He needs skilled care, medical care, and my mother is really confused. And I think the more you talk to her, the more confused she gets, especially, you know, with a stranger. Speaking of my mom, her world is shifting too, but in ways that are quieter and actually a little more scary because it's a little unpredictable. I kind of wish she was confined to a bed or a recliner, but she's a busybody. And one of the things she misses the most is driving, of course. But the other thing she's missing that she's not able to do anymore is that she would walk miles and miles in laps around the house, and she's not really able to do that. She has a lot of back pain. But in the morning, she'd been saying, like, this doesn't feel like my house. Where am I? And that is becoming more frequent. She'll say, this doesn't really feel like my house, even though she knows these are her things, and especially things that like are one of a kind or things she got from her grandmother. She knows they're hers. And what she asked me, though, is that if I move it around from place to place, and she asked me, how did I move it around from place to place? And how did I get my father to this place? And so even though she's lived in the same house for 49 years, it doesn't feel familiar to her. And when I said, you've lived here for 50 years, she told me bullshit. And my mom is not much of a cusser. Shockingly, she called me my sister's name this week twice, and she's never done that before. She's never really ever gotten us mixed up. It's a particular kind of heartbreak, I think, watching two people who raised you slip in different directions for different reasons at the same time. And I was watching them this weekend. The Green Bay Packers won a big game against the Bears on Sunday, and we were watching it. And my dad, I helped him find it on his TV in his room. And my mom went in to congratulate him after they won. She thought for sure that he would be excited, but she didn't get much of a response. And she commented on it that like not even the Green Bay Packers could get some energy out of him. So I could tell that she was disappointed and honestly missed that connection. He's a super fan. They've been to Lambeau Field quite a few times. And so that was sad. Things just aren't the same. And I think everybody feels that in different ways, right? In different experiences. But I'm grateful that he's getting good care. I'm grateful that she isn't having to care for him all on her own anymore, and that she actually is getting good care and support, even on the days that she isn't quite sure who they are or where she's at. I'm grateful that even when she's quiet or confused, that they're at home, and that's good to know. He's exactly where he wants to be. She's aware enough that she doesn't want to go to a facility, even though she doesn't know she's in her own home. They're pretty good given the circumstances. And I'm grateful to my sister and to my cousin who got the internet back up and running. We installed a Ring camera system so that we can both hear them and see them during the day and whoever comes to the door and throughout the house. And that was down for a minute, which was kind of frustrating. But I think if families have the opportunity to do that, it's been a really great thing for us that keeps us connected because we're a couple hours away, my sister and I. And also it protects everybody involved. My mom was confused. And so last week she was very mad at one of the caregivers who she said screamed at her on the way out that prom was over and it was time to go home. And I just thought for sure that she was wrong. But I told her I would look at the camera and I would see. And of course, the woman just woke her up and said, "I'm going home now." And we did not have a daytime caregiver yet. And so she was kind of left alone and no one was able to correct her that wasn't what happened. But she was pretty convinced that the woman told her prom was over. So she must have been having a pretty good dream. But in my case, I was really glad, that I was able to both verify that she was confused and then also, share that funny moment with the caregiver who, when you hire qualified people who have experience caring for folks in the last stages of life, like they know what to expect. And of course, they didn't take it personally. So next week, we'll be back with a guest. We're actually going to hear from Cecily. And her story, like many of us, is an opportunity to give back to her mom, provide some transportation, run some errands, and make amends for maybe not always being the best daughter that she could be. And I look forward to sharing Cecily's story with you. Until then, have a great week and take care of yourselves.
You've been listening to Parental Advisory in Reverse. Real stories about Gen X adults taking care of the people who raised us. If you are in the thick of caregiving or just curious about what it looks like, you are in good company here. Follow the show wherever you listen and pass it along to someone who could use a little community right now, because caring for them starts with caring for yourself.